Welcome, faithful. We're here at the TCO Performance Center. I'm your team reporter, Lindsey Pallares, and I am joined by a couple special guests today. The Vikings team reporters, Gabe Henderson and Tatum, Everett, and we're going to recap day one of joint practices. It was a pretty clean practice here at the TCO Performance Facility. Still highly competitive, but I think both head coaches really made it a point that this was going to be a productive couple days for the team. What did you guys observe?
Yeah, no, definitely productive. I think a lot of these guys that you see in today's practice or yesterday's practice may not see a ton of reps, right? And even the game that we're playing on Saturday, especially in next weekend's game. So this is the most game competition a lot of these guys are going to see. It's exciting. It's a little difficult sometimes, if we're honest, about watching both fields at the same time, because right behind us is where the defense was. Over here near the fans is where the Vikings offense was. And so sometimes it's hard. I don't know about you, Gabe. I had a hard time following things yesterday.
I wish I had eyes in the back of my head because I was looking straight ahead and I was like, oh, there's a couple of O's behind me. But it was a lot going on yesterday. Really productive day, like both of you all said. And just seeing those guys get a lot of that work, especially the Nick Bosas of the world versus the Christian Darisaws or Trent Williams versus Darius Smith. We're not going to see that on Sunday most likely. So this was a really good day, and fans really got to see some really good football. Well, free football, if you put it that way, but today it should be another productive day for both units.
One thing I know that head coach Kyle Shanahan said that for this second preseason game, like you guys said, this is probably closer to real live game action, what we're going to see this week, because for our team, expected starters likely won't play on game two. Kyle Shanahan said that's always subject to change, but that is not the plan as far as the 49ers go. Not sure what's happening on the Vikings side. Maybe you guys can fill us in on that.
I mean, I don't want to break any. I don't want to
keep our cards. They keep their cards close to their chest. It's a new staff, so even with that, Gabe, I feel like maybe if we had this staff in previous seasons, we'd know a little bit more about what they'll do in this
everything's
game.
So new.
But everything's so new for us that we're just not 100% sure. And then you think this past weekend when Kirk was out, we don't know what he would have been able to do in that game one or what Coach O'Connell would have let him do. And so do we see him a little bit on Saturday? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
If I was a betting man, I would probably say most of our starters will not play. Yeah. I think Kirk Cousins, like Tatum said, is probably the exception because you want to see what he looks like in this offense. He had a really good day of practice yesterday, but we don't really know. We don't know what he looks like in game action, so we'll see.
He did kind of tip his hat a little bit, too, yesterday. He tipped his hand. I mean, when he was talking about what he would have done, or he kind of said, half a dozen plays, and you're like, is that a phrase he uses? Is that is it 6 plays?
There's been a couple of starters for other teams in the NFL in the preseason that's played one drive or 6 games, and they got in for a couple of plays and then left. So I can see what Kirk is saying. There's like half a dozen plays.
Maybe
that's
he was
a series.
Just thinking about what other teams are doing, and maybe it's not really a look into what Kevin O'Connell's actually thinking.
You never know. I mean, Trey Lance again played 2 offensive series in our first preseason game. It's a total possibility, but again, out with COVID, so wasn't able to actually play out in that first preseason game. On the Vikings side, what really stood out to you guys on day one? Obviously, I found myself standing in between both practice fields and kind of just pivoting back and forth to see what was going on. So like you said, kind of hard to keep track of everything, but super eventful.
Yeah, I think so. I think I watched a lot of the offense. We talked about this a little bit yesterday between the three of us, that I watched a little bit more of the offense. I thought JJ is just already looking in true mid-season form. I don't even know if he has a mid-season form. I feel like this is how he is all the time.
He's been like this
and
since
he's just
OTAs.
been balling out this camp. I feel like sometimes maybe in the past it hasn't been this dominant in camp, so I don't know what that can say about his season to come, but he just looked incredible out there in this new scheme. The 2-minute drill was something that I kept my eye on, as well as Kellen Mond. He was out there right after Kirk. It wasn't Sean Mannion. So I think, while we don't have a starting quarterback battle, we definitely have a backup quarterback battle going on. So that's definitely something to watch.
Yeah, and I'm going to go defensive side of the ball. There's not many position battles on the defensive line, and I feel like that's what stood out to me, especially Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter. We know Trent Williams is a future Hall of Famer, almost probably the best left tackle of all time. But seeing Zadarius Smith go up against Trent and then maybe not be as successful, but move inside and the switch to the guard and be successful there. That was very exciting to see. He missed all of last year. He played for the Green Bay Packers. So seeing him in purple against another team, that was very fun to watch. And it's, I think, encouraging for our fans to see him and Daniil Hunter alongside each other this season.
I will say this, though. There was a couple of plays where you could tell that Kirk was rattled by what San Francisco was doing up front. I feel like there's still so many kinks that this offense is trying to figure out. And so I thought that play by George Odom looked amazing yesterday. Yeah. I thought that was a really exciting play. I know for someone who, didn't come from the big school, didn't have that kind of background to really make a statement play at camp was a really interesting thing that I saw yesterday. But, I mean, as well as I think that the Vikings offense was doing, it was not easy, and I was really impressed with San Francisco's front yesterday.
And their offensive front too. I know people are saying, well, I mean, the O-line needs to get better for the 49ers, but I'm a huge 49ers O-line fan. You guys run the ball pretty much every single play, and in a team like ours that didn't stop the run last year, it was really good work for us. So it went well on both sides of the spectrum.
And you guys talked about that defensive front, and that's kind of, San Francisco's calling card as of the last 3 seasons. Part of the reason probably Kirk Cousins had a little trouble yesterday. Nick Bosa, you cannot ever, underestimate him, and, even our tight end George Kittle was saying it's so great to not have to block him in practice. So I think that's one of the beneficial things of having these joint practices, that you kind of get to hit the refresh button, get to see different defensive and offensive fronts, and it's great. And then, Nick Bosa never fails to impress. Had a would-be sack, here in practice, we kind of just do a little tap, and that means you would have been down. And had a couple great run stops, so really good to see. And again, like you mentioned, that offensive line, we've had an injury to Daniel Brunskill in that first preseason game, so really good to see center Jake Brendel really taking the load of the snaps, and then we also saw one of our rookies start to learn the position, and so it's all been good. Very, like we said, very productive here. Thoughts for today, expectations of what we'll see out on the field?
Much of the same. I mean, it was chippy yesterday. You can definitely say that, but we didn't see any fights, so hopefully that stays the same. Yes. We don't want to end up in like SportsCenter top 10.
Patriots, Panthers.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Don't want that. So I think just more of the same. I think that Kirk really talked yesterday about seeing the different types of defensive fronts and working against something that he's used to being seen. I mean, he saw it during OTAs, minicamp, now training camp. So this has been a nice break for them. And, who doesn't love a mental challenge, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to go opposite on that. I think today the intensity is going to ramp up. I think yesterday was a filling out period, and both teams got some work. But I do think it'll be a little bit more chippy today.
Okay, so you're thinking hopefully people are feeling more comfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Today.
It's just
yeah,
like, okay, I know what he likes to do. You understand certain people's tendencies, so it'll be fun today.
I think also too. I mean, it's a little humid out here, guys. I mean, I think that kind of messes
not Cali.
with it's not California out here.
Honestly, it doesn't feel like Minnesota. It feels like the South. Like you can almost like take the air with you.
I would take this over the South any day of the week.
Yeah, the mornings here aren't that bad.
So I did look at the forecast. I don't see any rain clouds right now, but there was a chance of rain. So what happened? Do we go inside if that's the case?
Yeah. If you over here to our right is the indoor practice facility. I almost did the IPF because that's like what we call it around here, and it's just like it's a normal like standard indoor practice facility, but it's only one field. So when it was the weather yesterday, I was actually thinking about this morning. I was like, so what would be the plan? Yeah. Because it is just one field, and obviously here they're utilizing 3, sometimes 4. So that would be an interesting turn.
If you can give a visual to fans, just think about the NBA Finals and think about how crowded the court is.
Right.
That's how the indoor practice facility would be like if both teams went inside. No. So we'll have fun though.
What's the most impressive position group that you've seen from the Vikings side based on what you guys observed yesterday?
I mean, I always have to say running backs right now. I think that we talk so much about this pass-happy NFL league, this Kevin O'Connell bringing a Ram style, which you guys know about, offense here. But that running back room is loaded. And Gabe and I have talked about this a ton. It's a big debate because you've got not at number 1 because you got Dalvin Cook, but you have Alex Madison behind him who's gone in games when Dalvin's injured and done really well for the Vikings in the past. but it's season 4. It's a contract year, so it's a big year for him. And then behind him is Kene Nwangwu, who led the league last year in kick return touchdowns. So he's very fast, looking to get some offensive reps as well. And then you've got a rookie, Ty Chandler, who, Gabe, you were there at the game, the Raiders game. I mean, he had a couple of big explosive plays and can be a special teams performer. I mean, like, to me, I'm like, that is an interesting room right there.
What about you, Gabe?
I'm going to go defensive side of the ball again, because the running back position, that's probably the top as far as, like, the biggest position to watch for the Vikings right now that a lot of people aren't talking about. But the cornerback room is probably the biggest debate. You got Patrick Peterson, who's getting a little bit older, but as a seasoned vet, he understands the game. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I said Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm sorry, guys. Trey Lance beat him over the top on the fade route yesterday, and I was like, okay, like, I see what people are saying, but he is such a solid cornerback. But after him, you got Andrew Booth Jr., Cameron Dantzler, Harrison Hand. There's so many guys that are battling for that backup role right there opposite of Patrick Peterson. So that's going to be a position that we're all going to watch. And I think today in one-on-ones and 7-on-7, someone will emerge as that backup.
To P2's credit, I will say our rookie wide receiver, Danny Gray out of SMU, absolutely one of the fastest guys that I've ever gotten to observe. Caught a really long touchdown pass, over 50 yards in our first preseason game. Saw him do something very similar, like you said, with Trey Lance in 7-on-7 drills yesterday. Basically, when he turns the wheels on, you are not going to catch
Good
him.
luck.
So, for us, I think it's the wide receiver group that is very interesting. And then, obviously, you have, Deebo Samuel, who can do it all. And watching the chemistry really build between him and Trey Lance has been great. They had a couple really good catches, to open up, I think, red zone drills yesterday. So really encouraging to see that relationship grow and develop. And I think for us, the wide receiver room is going to be something to watch this season.
I think a lot of people in the NFL are watching your wide receiver room for sure.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Brandon Ayuk.
Oh,
He's
he's
really good.
Arguably, we've had several of our guys say this, but other than Nick Bosa, who is Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk probably having the best camp out of everyone. He was kind of the product of Kyle Shanahan's tough love and really came back for year 3, just absolutely looking all the part, and has really been Trey Lance's go-to target. So definitely don't want to leave him out of that conversation. Somebody to watch, especially on one-on-one drills today. I know there's a lot of competition there.
No, it should be an exciting day. I think it's a sold-out crowd here
again
at Vikings training camp. Yesterday it was just insane, the amount of people along the sidelines, fans, media, and then that whole stand behind us is just filled with people.
It's halfway full right now.
There's hospitality tents and like VIP sections over here that are full. I mean, it's incredible. These Vikings fans are excited about this new era of football, and they're just really excited to have another team to look at and get some real game reps, as we've been talking about, to be able to watch that.
Yeah, and 49ers fans travel pretty well here too. So it's just it's Trey Lance's homecoming.
I was about to say, I think that also really helps. One thing too, just to let everybody at home know, Trey Lance is originally from Marshall, and from what I heard from availability yesterday, actually some coaches and players from his former high school are going to be bussed in today. So I know that that's something that he's really looking forward to. Family and friends were here yesterday. I'm sure they will be here today. Have you guys felt a lot of Trey Lance love? I know he's not a player from here, but player of this team, but he's from here. This is essentially his hometown.
I mean, you got to think about it this way. Minnesota, it's not necessarily known as a football producing state. Football talent. Like, you think of hockey, you think of basketball, but maybe football not as much.
It's not the most popular sport.
Not the most popular. So when you've got a guy like Trey Lance who killed it at North Dakota State, not too far from here, several Bison fan around here, and then you go to San Francisco, you win the job, they are pumped for him. And one thing about Minnesotans, they are proud to be Minnesotans. So they are going to love Trey Lance, even if they're Vikings fans today. They'll root for him as long as they don't actually play in a game that matters.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be a fan that has a 49ers shirt on today, but a Trey Lance North Dakota State on. Trey Lance North Dakota State jersey on there.
NDSU.
Exactly.
I like that.
Or his high school jersey. Yeah, exactly. Or his high school jersey.
People do that.
Yeah, people love their state here. People love Trey Lance.
One interesting thing I saw in the parking lot, other than the puppies that you mentioned earlier today, there was a sea of purple jerseys and a little kid in a Deebo Samuel jersey. So
cute.
there are fans out here.
Yeah.
They're out here. But yes, I think primarily Trey Trey Lance fans, specifically in this region.
For sure. And Trey Lance, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, all you guys, like, we love good football here in Minnesota. We don't really get that much, especially coming from, a small town like Tatum said and being a big hockey city. So whenever another team comes in town and they have, likable players, we get on board too. Of course, we want our guys to win, but at the same time, like, we appreciate really good athletes and really good football.
Let's be real right now, right? Like, Deebo's on your fantasy team. Ayuk's on your fantasy team. So you're a Vikings fan, but you might be drafting these guys, and then you come to like them because you have to pay more attention. It's true.
Yeah. It's true. Hopefully JJ is on that team too.
I think I saw somewhere that he was he went from being top 5 to number 2 in a lot of fantasy rankings because of this offense they're trying to install.
I've gotten a lot of questions about JJ and also Brandon Ayuk. I have friends definitely hitting me up and saying, hey, good idea for my fantasy team this year. And I'm like, I would say yes.
She's the insider here, Lindsey.
Hey, I'm with two insiders. Before we wrap things up here today, I know likely on either side we won't see a ton of starters on Saturday, but what is one thing that you are looking for in that preseason game? I think I'm definitely looking for rookies to be getting a bulk of the reps and really just logging that experience because it is so valuable, and along with everything that will be done in practice today as well.
Okay, Gabe, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I think for us, and a lot of Vikings fans are looking forward to this too, is seeing who emerges as the backup quarterback. Kellen Mond really had a really good showing in Las Vegas this past Sunday, and Sean Mayen did also, but Kellen Mond, he's the new kid on the block.
Right.
We haven't really seen him play, so more fans have a little more affinity to him. So how does he take that next step as the backup quarterback if he is the guy? Sean Mayen, he's a solid quarterback. He gets the job done. We know what he can do, but who takes that next step and solidifies himself against a very good 49ers team?
That's definitely what I would pick too. I think it's just the hottest piece of debate right now because of the situation. He was a draft pick a couple years ago, and I don't think he's reached that level of confidence with coaching staffs yet. And it's not to say it's not there, and there are a lot of people in the staff that are, I guess what I should say is the staff is more focused on teaching, and they want to know the why behind everything. So they're taking the time. You've got Kevin O'Connell, a former NFL quarterback. You have a quarterbacks coach who came from the Rams. You have an assistant quarterbacks coach who used to be a skills guy in private coaching. So
he played at Texas A&M also with Kellen Mond also.
So he's got all these tools around him. What can he do to take best advantage of that and take the next step? And so this is a really pivotal time for Kellen, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much from Gabe Henderson and Tatum, Everett, and myself. That's it from this second joint training camp, and I'll have a recap of it all later tonight.